some technical glitches out here. Good evening and good morning to all of you. It depends where you are participating from. I'm Saurabh Mohanty. I work with Connected Learning Initiative project in Chhattisgarh. I'm heartily welcoming all of you to this event. And this event was a very long invested, cultivated process. We found a lot of different dimension and tangent of the project. So definitely in this upcoming next 1 hour, we're going to listen from our panelists and members. To proceed, may I request Professor Thomas Sarangatani, the chairperson and chairperson, Center for Education, Innovation and Action Research, and also our project director, Connected Learning India. I request ma'am to share a brief overview and the welcome note to all with us.
Thank you, Saurabh. Please do share the first slide so that as I introduce this important initiative, you're also able to see some of the figures and facts pertaining to this initiative itself. So the Connected Learning Initiative was seeded in 2015 as an initiative led jointly by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and it was seeded by the Tata Trusts. This initiative had three important goals that we had set ourselves. We wanted to develop ways in which technology could be meaningfully integrated into student learning experience as well as teacher development so that it is relevant to Indian contexts and it makes a difference to secondary school students and teachers in government schools of India. And towards this, we spent a lot of time designing, developing resources that were relevant to the school curriculum for high school students in the areas of mathematics, science, and English, and were also relevant to their teachers in terms of professional development. And we wanted to use technology in ways which are uncommon in the Indian context to enhance participation, active learning, and interactivity among students and also between teachers as a learning community. So for us, student activity as well as teacher professional development were very central axes of the intervention. The second important component of this intervention involved exploring and developing the idea of what does it mean to work at scale so that interventions that are proposed as significant and meaningful to the public schooling system are actually implementable and sustainable. And towards this, we partnered with the state governments of Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Rajasthan, and Telangana and the University of Mizoram, the Center for Educational Resource and Planning of Rajasthan, and our own teams, the DSCRT in Telangana and our own team in Chhattisgarh, along with the SCRT there, to actually take this intervention into classrooms and schools and to work with teachers. And we did this at scale. We reached over 500 schools over the main phase of the intervention. We worked with over 3,000 teachers, and more than 20,000 school students have used CLIx resources. The third important dimension of our work was to also research the work that we were doing and to investigate the manner in which this intervention played out in the schools, what sense teachers and students made of it, in what way it contributed or impacted their own beliefs and learning, and also the ways in which this intervention has grown within the state schooling systems and has also acquired greater acceptability among our collaborators. And the third component of this research, therefore, was research. And we were very fortunate that the trust support that we received enabled us to engage with all these three components fully. And today we are in this happy position in which we have completed the research study and we are sharing the findings of this research with you. This phase is largely looking at phase 1 of CLIx, which had these 3 broad um, goals. And CLIx continues. It continues in the states of Mizoram, Telangana, and Chhattisgarh today, where we are drawing on the learnings from our phase 1 to look towards ways in which we can strengthen teachers and the teacher educator community to sustain meaningful use of education technology in the secondary school learning space. We're also working with state governments to think through and implement robust ways in which technology can be meaningfully deployed in teacher professional development. And we're also looking at the larger universe of open educational resources to be able to curate and integrate good quality educational resources into the school curriculum. And so CLIx Phase 2 continues drawing on the learnings of Phase 1. In today's presentation, um, my colleague Meera Chandran will be sharing the research design key findings, which were carried out by her and the research team over the last 4 years of CLIx implementation. So I'm really pleased that we are at the stage today in which we are able to bring this very comprehensive, rigorously conducted research and share findings. So over to you, Meera. We will unveil the CLIx report, I guess, and then listen to you. Maybe back to Saurav at this stage.
Thank you, ma'am. So right now we are going to release our CLIx report, and we're requesting Professor Ms. Padma Akarapu, English teacher from Telangana, to release this report and with us. So I'm just yeah.
Yeah, good evening all.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm glad to be part of this panelist program. Can you see my screen, madam?
Not yet.
Just give me a moment.
Sure.
Ma'am, just give 1 minute. Deepa is making you the presenter. Then you can be able to share the screen.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you see my screen, ma'am? Hello? Can you see my screen?
Yet. Not yet. No. Padma ma'am, can you announce that you release the CLIx research report?
I haven't been told that. Hello? Hello, Meera ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Unfortunately, we are not able to see your screen. Maybe you can put your video on and you can announce that you are releasing the research report, and then I can present. It is an alternative that I'm just saying.
Right now? Ma'am, now?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Can you see my screen?
yes.
Okay.
But maybe you are sharing something else, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
Yes.
The CLIx report?
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
this is the same. Yeah.
Okay. I'm very happy to be in the panelist list, ma'am, and very glad to unveil the research report of CLIx training program.
Can you go to the presenter mode? Yeah. Yeah. Great.
and we are from Telangana. Some of our teacher, almost 300 to 350 schools have been involved in this, and we have trained up nearly 300 from each school, one teacher, and everyone were so excited to see the CLIx study material, study material or the online material which has been available to us. And it was, even the teachers were so excited to see the material. We became like children to explore the platform which has been introduced to so many activities, and the children were given many more things to explore and record and revise their re-recording and all. That way, it's a new platform for them and a new way of learning for them to explore things and learn the language. Usually in rural areas, this kind of recording is not available, whereas this platform, the things which have been introduced in lessons and all were so really helpful and so great for them to learn the language and explore things online. And we request you to make a few online materials such that which can be related to our textbooks too. From the beginning, I was saying the same. As a resource person, which have been associated with you people, if a few exercises which have been related and associated with our textbooks, that would be a great help for our children.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Meera, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is someone sharing the screen for me, or
just a minute?
Yeah.
Before you start, Meera, I think some of our panelists may be among the participants. So Satej, I request you to please just take a look and bring in Professor Behera and Frida as well. Yes, thank you. Yeah, please go ahead, Meera. Yes.
Yeah, I need to share my presentation, or somebody else can share it on the screen. Or should I? Yeah, I'm not the presenter. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, we.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm really, really pleased to be presenting before you the CLIx research findings. Research has been integral to the ongoing activities of CLIx implementation at scale. Ongoing activities of CLIx design, implementation at scale, adoption, and impact. And both CLIx research and the intervention have been guided by the theory of change with respect to student learning, teacher practice, and classroom processes. Student interest and engagement in science, maths, and English will improve with opportunities for engagement and active learning using education technology. Teachers' ability to use technology improves with TPD and peer interaction in COPs, that is communities of practice. Classroom processes improve when teachers are scaffolded to exercise autonomy and there are adequate working tech resources and an enabling ecosystem. There were three major research studies at the program level across CLIx sites. These were the monitoring and evaluation of the CLIx design, including the study on impact of CLIx modules on student learning, the adoption study, which is the innovation, diffusion, process documentation study, and the CLIx impact baseline endline study. So the findings today are presented in two major sections, which is the first, we have the adoption and diffusion of CLIx as understood from the implementation and monitoring tool data, the CLIx platform data, the concerns-based adoption model survey data, and the IDPD data from round 2. Secondly, the impact of CLIx at the teacher level, classroom processes, and student learning based on the learning outcome studies and the endline study. We begin by asking ourselves the question, were conditions for CLIx implementation met in 2018 and 19? The conditions include functional labs, availability of infrastructure, access to CLIx resources, trained teachers with a positive disposition towards the intervention, effective school-based support, and so on. And these were the conditions that were identified for effective implementation at scale. And we find that these conditions were adequately met. In 91% of these school visits, servers were functioning, peripherals were available, computers were better functioning over the academic year. Power did not pose an issue in 75 to 85% of the cases. Nearly all software and platform related issues were resolved and hardware issues had reduced from the previous year. And there was high to moderate TPD attendance across the states. Teachers' feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and they had access to smartphones to participate in online COPs. Most importantly, the school-based support was an average of 4.8 visits per school for 82% of the schools. So in our assessment, conditions for CLIx implementation were met to a very high level. Now, with regards to adoption of CLIx at the level of schools, teachers, and students. With regards to CLIx adoption, to the extent to which CLIx was adopted in schools, we used data from IMT, that is 512 IMT observations from 1198 visits to 255 schools, and from the survey of teachers and on the concerns on the CBAM model and the CLIx student platform data. What we find here is that overall, 5% of students had high adoption of 11 to 12 modules out of the available 12 modules. 19% had moderately high adoption of 7 to 9 modules. And across Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, and Rajasthan, about 70% of schools had a fairly high degree of adoption of 57, 70%, and 72%. Analysis of survey data from teachers using the CBAM framework shows that between 22 to 29% of teachers were at a higher adoption level, as indicated by their concerns regarding consequences of CLIx. 36% were at level 2, which expresses concerns regarding the practical aspects of managing the implementation. 45% were at the informational stage of adoption. 500 observations from the IMT showed that 71% of teachers were in class during the CLIx session, out of which 73% of them were very actively involved. Platform data shows that the average unique logins per school was at an average of 41.5% across schools, which compares very well with the average class size of CLIx schools. So this indicates a reasonable level of access by individual students at all intervention levels. The Innovation Diffusion Process Documentation Study was conceptualized to understand the manner in which the innovation such as CLIx is adopted and becomes diffused at scale. We were interested in understanding the stakeholders' perceptions of the purpose, affordance, constraints, implementation, and potential impact of CLIx. Key research questions were, what was the process of What was the process of innovation diffusion across the life cycle of the intervention? What were the key shifts and continuities in the concerns, expectations, roles, and ideas about the innovation across the various stakeholders? And what were the similarities and differences amongst the stakeholders' views and ideas about the innovation? So here we find that the students reported that they understood concepts better. Teachers found the TPD useful, particularly the fact that it was practice-based. Principals were of the view that CLIx would allow their students to compete with students in private schools. The factors that promote and impede diffusion of innovation corresponds with the respondents' own position. For students, the importance of teachers' presence was what promoted learning. For teachers, it was concerns regarding the systemic adoption of the innovation that was a barrier to their implementation of CLIx. Similarly, for principals, the concern was a need for a monitoring mechanism by the state that would promote adoption. For officials, the concerns pertain to the need for scaling and greater outreach of the innovation. We next move to the second section of this presentation, which is on the CLIx impact. So here the research design draws upon a mixed method approach, wherein impact studies at the student levels are reported from the inline study based on a random sample of students and a learning outcome study, which was designed specifically to study the impact of select modules implemented with fidelity to design. Findings from surveys of teachers, school heads, and observations of classroom are drawn upon as well. So the design of analysis here draws upon these key constructs at these various levels. At the level of teachers, teacher outcomes from surveys are reported, outcomes for teachers at the level of teachers from surveys are reported based on the key constructs with respect to teachers, pedagogic change and student learning. This includes teachers' belief about use of technology, perceived challenges, skills and practices, and subject pedagogies. Pedagogic changes towards CLIx pedagogic pillars, student learning of CLIx specific subject areas, and grade level subject areas. Corresponding to these units of analysis are comparisons of CLIx and non-CLIx teachers and panel teachers who were part of the baseline as well as the endline, and comparisons based on levels of TPD within the panel teachers. Pedagogic change is reported based on teacher self-reports, student reports, and observations. Student learning is presented for group school subject concepts and abilities related to CLIx modules and overall grade level concepts. So this is presented also by grouping students based on their opportunity to access the CLIx resources and being taught by teachers with high extents of TPD. So here we find that there is a positive change in teachers' belief with respect to the panel teachers in advanced and online skills, but a small decline in the basic skills. This we attribute to a reassessment by teachers of their own skills after receiving the TPD. Perception of challenges due to functioning of devices was lower, but perception on role of ICT teaching with computers increased. It also, we also see an increase in their teachers' self-reported active teaching for English and maths, but there is a slight decline for science. Teachers' skills and beliefs in relation to the extent of TPD is reported here, where we find that there was differences in beliefs and perceptions when teachers' level of exposure to TPD is taken into account, which means that teachers with 3 years of TPD report higher positive beliefs and lower challenges when compared to those with only 1 to 2 years of TPD. This is attributed to their increased confidence due to long-term TPD. Differences in beliefs and perceptions are found when teachers' level of exposure to TPD with respect to their interactive pedagogies and authentic learning opportunities that they provide to students. And we find that CLIx teachers are able to provide opportunities to their students in relating to real life and checking conceptual knowledge. And particularly in the lab sessions, we find that teachers are providing clear instructions and they are ensuring that the students are engaged and on their tasks more than 75% of the time. With respect to classroom pedagogies, in the learning outcome studies in particular, we are able to see that in English, students are producing language. In maths, students are engaged in meaningful maths talk. And in science, students are able to communicate using special information and on astronomy concepts. In the inline study, we are also able to see in over 75% of the cases, students were actively engaged. Both girls and boys were engaged in handling their computers confidently. They were sharing tasks and they were completing tasks on time. Students learning in school subject concepts. This is the finding that we are reporting based on students' access to the CLIx resources, and they're being taught by a teacher who has high level of TPD. So here we find that student learning outcomes significantly improved in the concepts, skills, and abilities, which were the focus of CLIx modules in respective subject areas, as was found in the learning outcomes study, where CLIx was implemented with attention to fidelity and design. Significant effect size was noted in the case of mathematics, in the case of astronomy in science, and geometric reasoning in mathematics, and listening skills in English. In the endline study, we included an assessment of student learning in the related subject areas in the overall grade level aspects of English, maths, and science. Here, performance of students in English and science was better than the external control, where they had access to CLIx lab use and were taught by a high TPD teacher. Girls with respect to gender and caste, we find that girls with high CLIx input performed significantly better with effect size in science compared to the internal control group and group 2, which had a high input CLIx teacher but were not able to access the CLIx resources. The same group of girls performed significantly better than the external control as well in English. A gender difference in favor of boys was noted in English and maths. With regards to students from the SC/ST groups, in high CLIx input group, they performed significantly better than the external control in English, and there was no caste difference in lab access for SC/ST groups for English, but there was a caste difference in favor of non-SC/ST groups for maths and science. With respect to students' digital skills, we find that with regards to a range of ICT skills, there was a positive effect of using CLIx resources in the ICT lab for all students. The opportunity to use the ICT lab in the course of using CLIx modules produced significant shifts in student knowledge and skills relating to basic digital skills, online and mobile digital skills, such as use of internet browsers, as well as CLIx-specific digital skills. Finally, to conclude, we would like to share with you that the preconditions for CLIx implementation were met to a great degree by the year 2018 and 19. 42% of schools had over 50% of modules in, had used over 50% of modules in Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Rajasthan, and 12% in Telangana. Higher level of TPD contributed to increased teacher confidence in abilities to use ICT and their beliefs regarding use of ICT in education and lower perception of conditions as being challenging. Students' reports, observational records of teachers and students, behaviors in the classrooms, particularly when using CLIx resources showed better engagement, interest, and peer learning on the part of students. Students' learning outcomes were higher when implemented with fidelity to design in the focus subject areas, and students with high CLIx inputs, such as having access to a high TPD teacher and the CLIx resources, performed better in grade level learning assessment in English and science and digital skills. Girls and SCST students' performance was higher in science and English, respectively, when they received high CLIx inputs. As a further research, we would like to propose that systemic adoption of CLIx with curricular integration and infrastructure at scale with long-term TPD support is the future direction for CLIx. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miraman, for sharing the project findings. Yeah. Okay. Please, yeah. Can share someone can put me in the host so that I can share my screen. Okay. So we're going to the next session, and in the CLIx Phase 1 journey has been very, very rich in terms of learning, and additionally also it shows that how OER and CLIx resources can be demonstrated in government high schools and higher secondary schools. And particularly in the pandemic, how teachers have been using OER more meaningfully with their students. That's also quite interesting. So in this session, we would like to share a few testimonies that we have collected across the state, Telangana, Rajasthan and Mizoram. And so through this video, we would like to show some glimpse of teachers' experiences. I hope you can understand and got some sense that in the pandemic situations, how teachers are continuously crafting new and adopting new kind of ICT skills and using meaningful ICT integration in their online classrooms. Yeah. So give me 2 minutes. I'm sharing my screen. I hope my video is. Can you hear?
Full screen, Saurabh.
Yeah, sure.
मिली तो मुझे लगा कि इससे मुझे बहुत
Satish, not able to hear Saurav.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sharing it again. Yeah. Is it clear now?
No, I'm afraid we're not able to hear anything, Saurav. I think there must be some problem with the interface. We're having a lot of technical glitches today. Yeah. May I suggest that we come back to this if you can use the time to try to set it right, and maybe we hand over to Vijay.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think let's play this video at the end. Yeah.
Sure.
Vijay, please.
Okay. We'll play the video at the end, and right now we are moving to the next session, which is our panel discussions. And this panel discussion will be moderated by Professor M.S. Vijay Kumar. Professor Vijay Kumar is Associate Dean, Open Learning and Executive Director, JWell, MIT at Boston. And this discussion will be preliminary focus on understanding a reflection of CLIx project learning, and also to understand the implication as well as the opportunity for scaling CLIx in different regions and with context to developing nations. Over to you, Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, Saurabh, and can we see the panelists on the screen also, or will they come on when they speak?
So just to clarify, Vijay, Mrs. Seshu, Professor Amarendra Behera is very much here. So sir, please do turn your video on. Frida is also here. She's still in the panelists, in the attendees
and
group.
The participants.
So requesting Satej and Sadakat to please bring her onto the panel group. And Mrs. Seshu Kumari is joining via Omkar's phone. So she will be visible on his
as
mobile
Omkar.
phone. As Omkar.
Very good, very good. Yeah. Yes. And you know, we this is an age of combining technologies. So I will, as I wait for them, let me take a few seconds. First of all, to you know, as I'm listening to you, Padma and Meera, and looking at the videos, that I want to also you know, say that this is indeed a very, very important moment in the important milestone in the progression of this very important initiative, and which has taken a whole bunch of people over several years to execute, understand what's going on through the research process. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my colleagues at MIT, the co-PI Eric Klopfer, Glenda Stump, Judy Perry, Brandon, Louisa, all of whom have contributed to the efforts which are being reflected today. You know, we have a very, very illustrious set of people, panelists, who are going to join, whose expertise and experience is so related to so many dimensions of the project. And what I'd like to do in the next 15-20 minutes is invite them to share their perspectives, their reflection, you know, on the research work, and as well as their perspectives on what could lie ahead, as Sarah pointed out. So, but before that, let me just to set the context, revisit something or emphasize some things that Professor Sarangapani said in an introduction, Padma said in an introduction, which is the project's premise was really that the judicious application, integration of digital technologies along with the affordances of open education and good pedagogy, which are reflected through the pedagogical pillars of the CLIx initiative, can lead to important and necessary transformation in education. And when we say transformation, it meant we could do really allow quality educational experiences to be available at scale, where scale is a diversity of learners in different circumstances. So there was a particular focus on what we call traditionally underserved audiences. And when you saw the research presentation that Meera so elegantly laid out, it's very clear that you know that these premises were reflected through the centrality of you know, through curriculum development, as was reflected in the CLIx modules, through teacher professional development activity, and through infrastructure considerations, organizational infrastructure considerations. That was a systemic dimension. And, and these really, when all these were present well, these reflected in some very, very strong positive outcomes, as the research study pointed out, were reflected again, were identified through learning outcomes, through the through the increasingly positive disposition towards looking at technology, technology integration in curriculum, and also highlighted some important dimensions, the significance of teacher professional development activity, as well as systemic considerations in making sure that you set the stage for enduring change, so that these are not just teasers, but really set us in the direction of important, significant, lasting change. So that I wanted to set as a context as I invite our panelists to comment. Very quickly about a quick note about the panelists, like I said, whose expertise and experience touches many aspects of the project. We have Professor Frida Wolfenden, whom I have met many years ago with the Open University. She's currently the education director at the Girls Education Challenge Fund Manager, a program that supports learning for over 1.3 million marginalized girls in 17 countries. We have Professor Amarendra Behera, who's Joint Director at the Central Institute of Education Technology at NCRT, whose long and illustrious career reflects his experience with education technologies in India from the early years. This almost parallels my own this thing from the old AV days and audiovisual media management of school broadcasting to the current digital world. And we have Ms. Srimati Seshakumari Bhupati Raju, who has been very intimately connected with the CLIx initiative. She has held several prominent positions in the state education department in the government of Telangana. She was, until recently, the director of SCRT. So these folks, the panelists that we're very fortunate to have here today, I am asking you all, and we will go serially, to reflect on what you have heard about the research presentations. And when I say reflect, one of the things that I would ask you to address is, were there some things that surprised you? Were there some aha moments? Or did you see some things that you think needed more addressing? Meera pointed at the end about some of the future areas of research. Were there some things that really stood out in terms of the research findings? And the second thing that I'd like you to address in your comments is really your perspectives of the future. What are the considerations when you think about the CLIx project? What are the considerations for amplifying, for extending the impact of this initiative more extensively to other schools, to regions in India, elsewhere in the world? And most importantly, what are the implications of this project to address the significant educational challenges and opportunities that we face as we move into the post-pandemic world? How do we provide quality at scale? As we all know, we've all rapidly run to transition. We have moved to online education more for business continuity purposes, but the CLIx project's elements of looking at combinations of on-site, online, looking at the affordances open, seems to offer great opportunities, a very good model when we start thinking about how do we get ourselves ready.
I'm now the host. So
to present, how do we get ready
to the participants
to infuse, to respond to the opportunities and challenges as we configure ourselves, our institutions, for education in the post-pandemic world. So I am going to first ask, we are going to go in the order of Professor Frida Wolfenden first, followed by Professor Behera, and we will close off with Srimati Seshakumari Bhupatiraju. And after that, after we hear their perspectives and their reflections, if there is time, we will ask folks to offer any questions that they might have that we can respond to. So over to you, Professor Freda.
Hi, good afternoon, Vijay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Fine. Thanks very much. Thank you for inviting me to join you today and to comment on this very important piece of work. First of all, I just wanted to acknowledge how impressed I am by what the project and most importantly the teachers have achieved often in difficult circumstances. They're acting as pioneers with the use of these resources and tools. It's a very rich report, and Vijay set a very comprehensive brief, but I'm going to try and be fairly succinct in my comments and sort of focus very much on teachers and pedagogy in what I say here. So first of all, 3 very quick observations about what I read here about the teachers in the project. I think, first of all, it's really important to note that teachers make a difference. We all know this, but too often we see ideas of technology being deployed to replace teachers, make do with fewer teachers, and so on, all of which I think runs the risk of kind of moving away from what we know about learning essentially being a social experience, needing mediation, needing facilitation, and so on. So I think it's important, the finding that skilled, experienced teachers were needed in the classroom to guide the students with the material. And I think that has implications for kind of post-pandemic. It's also very reassuring to see that the teacher professional development did make a difference to teachers and their practices with the CLIx materials, and ultimately for girls and pupils from marginalised groups. I think actually, to respond to Vijay, that the finding about girls was one of my aha moments, because although the report didn't have any data on that, I think we know from lots of other research that girls often have much less access to technology outside school. So they arrive in school in a way sort of slightly behind often their male peers in terms of confidence and competencies with digital technologies. So to see that they were able to use their resources and so on to show these learning gains, I think was really, really helpful. And it would be great to understand a bit more detail perhaps about what was happening in those classrooms around the girls to enable that to happen. Hopefully that data will really begin to convince teachers that undertaking these types of learning activities are not an addition, something to do when the syllabus is finished, but an integral part of their teaching, enriching the learning. Because I think that's also one of the challenges that also appears in this report. And then my third kind of point is that this point about a TPD being continuous emerges as a factor to support teacher change and improvements in pupil learning. And I think this isn't really trivial. I think I would suggest that there are many who argue that current TPD is not promoting or supporting teacher change, that these people don't fully appreciate the time it takes for teachers to move comfortably to new ways of teaching, involving, as it does, shifts in their identity, for example, the increased reflection on their practice, and so on. So allowing sufficient time for these changes, I think, is an important finding illuminated in this report. So I would suggest that these findings point to the value of the school-based, participant-focused, to focus on teachers' own learning needs, the value of that kind of form of TPD, with support either through peers or through the expertise of the field resource coordinators. And this is, I think, perhaps an important point when thinking about scaling, that we need to provide TPD which is highly contextual and addresses fairly immediately teachers' problems of practice, whether they're technological, pedagogic, or classroom management related. I hope I'm not kind of dumbing it down if I call that sort of just-in-time TPD. I think that kind of, for me, comes through in this report, compared to the more formal courses where the completion rate was relatively low, perhaps reflecting the fact that teachers find it difficult to make space and time to engage in those courses. So I just wondered actually if the project had any data on who participated in the Telegram groups and so on, and any differences in participation from teachers who, for example, did not have access to smartphones. Perhaps as a future piece of research, sort of analysing interactions in those online spaces might be helpful when thinking about how we take those more to scale. I also noted, and I think for me this was another slight aha moment, the changes in teachers' practices in the labs, paying attention or monitoring individual students to follow their learning, listening to them to find out what they know in relation to what's to be learnt, facilitating student talk and so on. All evidence of a shift towards a more learner-centred pedagogic approach. And what also came through there is part of that approach, which is the recognition of the importance of intrinsic motivation. And that's important for teachers and pupils. So my favourite quote actually is on page 49, where it says, teachers felt happy and more confident when students responded positively to their new teaching style. I think that's a really important start of a virtuous spiral as teachers find ways to improve their practice and they get reinforcing feedback from their students. And often we hear people talking about, teachers needing to be incentivized and so on in a very extrinsic way. And so I really liked that because it focused on intrinsic motivation and the kind of professionalism of teachers. So sort of moving forward, I just wanted to suggest it might be important to find ways to support extension and sustainability of the communities of practice, such that participating in them, as the conceptualization of communities in practice sort of originally indicated, participating in them becomes an integral part of what it means to be a professional teacher in the 21st century. So could these be organised more at school level, with support from a designated teacher within the school, thereby explicitly indicating support from the head teacher? Could the field resource coordinators be more permanent positions, or this role be part of a district block official's role when moving to scale? I think combining the framework of the CLIx courses and support with local adaptations is a key affordance of this approach. And it's shown here again with finding that there's importance of space for autonomy for teachers. However, I just wanted to end by just saying, I wonder if the model of ICT labs makes it inherently difficult for ICT to truly become a tool to enrich and extend learning across the curriculum, to move towards those kind of pedagogic principles or pillars that you talk about, and to achieve equity for participation for pupils and teachers. Are we perhaps asking too much of teachers to expect them to transfer practices across different types of learning space? Does the movement of pupils, constraints of space and devices demand that we conceptualize different ways of looking at these challenges? I just wanted to kind of float the idea of use of mobile devices that go into the classrooms, sort of follow the teacher and her pupils, so to move towards a much more integrated model of ICT usage, which I think is going to be the way forward post-pandemic. So the integration might be whether using the ICT, the children might be in the classroom with the teacher, or then maybe it might be at home or in some other kind of community learning space. So just kind of thinking about maybe breaking that divide between the ICT being in the lab and other kind of learning being in the classroom would be my final reflection. But there was so much to say. Those are just a few thoughts. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Freda. I mean, your comments are extensively more comprehensive than set of questions. There are so many important issues that you have identified through your comments, and I hope to get back to comment on some of them towards the end, particularly the notion of continuity, or continuous TPD and contextual TPD, as well as your last comment about taking the experience to where people are rather than where the technology is co-located. So we will get back to that, thinking differently about learning spaces. So thank you very much. And now, Professor Bera, look forward to your comments. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Professor Vijay Kumarji. And indeed, I am thankful to Madam Frida for very critical and apt observations. With continuing what Madam Frida has already mentioned, indeed, it is heartening to know that in these 4 states, starting from Northeast to Central India, to southern states. So the result of this particular quasi experiment has been very positive on the learning outcome of the students. So because nowadays a lot of stress are being given for developing competencies and achieving an expected learning outcome by every child. And when we see that through such kind of interventions, students are acquiring knowledge, and there is a difference in achievement as far as the schools, those who are students, those who are exposed to this intervention and those who are not exposed to this intervention. So, which is again very good situation, and heartening to know that the ICT tools and the infrastructure whichever they are in the secondary, senior secondary schools in the country is having impact. And so through the CLIx project. And also I must mention that any such intervention cannot be successful without the training and continuous capacity building of teachers, which might have been done definitely. That is why the change is visible, and the teachers have led the change and implemented the intervention in the classroom and found the positive change in the system. And another thing is the study again, it talks about both online and offline interventions, rather offline solutions for the students. So in the current COVID pandemic situation, such kind of interventions are very apt and needs to be scaled as far as the digital divide in India or any other country is concerned. Particularly if we talk about India, it is not less than a mini world. So geographically, culturally, linguistically, it is very diverse. So in that case, having some resources delivered through a design, experimental design, and finding its impact, which is positive, again shows that the offline solutions are also working and helping the stakeholders in learning. So that is there. And definitely the infrastructure part in the country need to improve. Even the National Education Policy 2020 also talks about having adequate infrastructure in schools. And also, though the ICT at School scheme was initially planned for secondary, senior secondary level, but now it is also being implemented at elementary level, so which will again liberate that particular group to learn through technology. And I must mention that such kind of initiatives needs to be scaled across the country, and the policy, particularly the National Education Policy 2020, through its 2 dedicated chapters on educational technology and online learning, has emphasized on this. And also while going through the presentation and interacting with the stakeholders, particularly the researchers from TIS, I could understand there were interactive resources also which were intervened as a content, technology, pedagogy integration as a part of this holistic project. But I feel still that a longitudinal study for tracking children for couple of classes could be more meaningful to see that okay, how they are slowly moving from classes and how their learning pattern is changing. Because through the national achievement surveys conducted by NCERT on class 5, 8th, class 3rd, 5th, 8th and 10th, we could find that the children, when they are students, when they are passing out and going through different levels, their achievement is reducing. So, which is not a heartening fact. So that is why we need to take up longitudinal studies so that children, how they perform over the classes and come up to expected level, that needs to happen. For the time being, much, but to address the needs of COVID pandemic and post-COVID pandemic situation, we need to have a resilient system and a coherent technology delivery, so that through broadcast, non-broadcast, portal, app, offline, online, we can address the stakeholders and have meaningful a change in their learning patterns. So I must congratulate TIS for taking up such initiatives and also showing that really technology interventions work and work for enhancing learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Behra, and thank you for emphasizing, as you think about looking ahead in the post-pandemic world, and particularly in the context of a country like India, that combinatorials, combinations, judicious combinations. When you say blended, blended means on-site, online, and different combinations of technology, and looking at the diversity of the population, something that Freda also emphasized, and I'll come back to that. So thank you very much for your comments. And let me move on now to to our last panelist, Srimati Seshakumari, and who has actually been very intimately involved with CLIx. And I look forward to your comments, Seshu.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay Kumar. Am I audible? Because I'm patched through
yes.
this mobile.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you once again, Dr. Vijay Kumar, and also Professor Padma Sarakatani. Thank you pointed by Marinder Behra. Any intervention of the scale and time period, I think will have a great impact on schools, particularly the students and teachers. Right from 2015, I was indirectly associated for 2 years, and then at CRT from 2016 onwards in the CLIx program implemented in Telangana state. So the team was housed in SCRT, and we have tried to look at the various components which are very important in the implementation of the program, and which was reflected in the research study disseminated by Panelists. Now, a quick, I don't know how to repeat the aspects which Reda and Benji have pointed out. As you know, in this project, technology played a very key role, supported by the school in general alliance of the principal support, the CPD, the professional development of teachers, and also the student engagement. Technology, I do take it as a key ingredient in this entire project, because the functionality of the labs professional development of teachers and also the teachers' commitment to involve themselves and then engage the students in the CLIx modules as well as the hands-on experience has played a great role in taking forward this project. And also the second important aspect is the commitment of teachers in making this work. And the role of diets also is a very important one. We have associated the teacher training colleges a bit, but it has played a crucial role in the sense that the CPD could be taken forward with the Association of the Teacher Training Institutions. Particularly when the team, the research team as well as the CLIx implementation project team were based in the field, working with diets as well as colleges of education have given that kind of support to the schools and teachers in maintaining the training that is very important and essential. Why I make this observation is, after completion of the project also, during the COVID times, at least 3 times to use a Telegram application. The kind of impact CLIx project had on the teacher training colleges, we could see, particularly in the Rangareddy diet, where they continue their programs of capacity building of teachers as well as the student trainees in the diet. So this is a very important aspect. Then upkeep of the machines also is a very important aspect. In most of the schools, what we noticed is small minor repairs of the computers and hardware maintenance, software issues could have been resolved, so that this could have reflected in the research study in more of functional labs and also utility by the students. And another important dimension is the role of the district administration and the state level administration, because the policy of stability of the teachers working in these schools, at least even if teachers are transferred, many programs for the teachers and moving them within the CLIx schools would have really helped in continuing the project in a greater way. This was another constraint which we tried to mitigate, but somehow I think that is in any system, in a large system, I think these are inevitable kind of things. But coming to the study, the 2 rounds of evaluation have been done in 2017 and 19, and as seen from the report, we noticed that there's a significant improvement in student performance in languages, mathematics, and sciences. And also the schools where the teachers have continued to provide the support to the students, also we notice a significant kind of improvement in the performance of the students. And the use of the this CLIx modules also, we see a 5% kind of use of on the higher side of 7 to 9 modules. This again, the state has a key role to play to empower both the guides as well as the teachers, and particularly the head teacher to take it forward. And coming to the diffusion of the program, I think we noticed during the pandemic times that many teachers from the set of trained teachers to programs like CLIx have switched on to the technology very easily, and they have made it possible without much of external motivation or instigation from the state level or the district level. Many teachers have reached out to the students immediately, particularly for the board examinations, through various technological applications and also through the mobile connectivity that they could establish with their students. This, I think, is a very important impact of the CLIx program that we have observed in at least Karimnagar, as well Karimnagar and Warangal districts, which are now roughly into 7 districts. So this is a key fallout of this CLIx program, I thought, which I would mention from Telangana state. Coming to the team work, in fact, we noticed that at least as far as the Tata Institute of Social Sciences team is concerned, they have been working very closely with SCRT almost as part of the entire team. In fact, I never realized that they were akin to the SCRT team. So the way they function within the government model, it really helped implementation of the project in spite of the administrative constraints that we have in upkeep of the technology and currency of the instruments and the software. These are some of the quick observations that I have had. And we did a summer camp for the students, CLIx school students in 2018-19, and again we noticed it also had a great impact in these schools where the children have come, and they could really show a significant improvement in their learning levels. And between the day one and the last day, we could see a lot of difference in terms of confidence in using technology, in ability to use language, and also their overall performance. So on the whole, this 5-year project has really helped schools and teachers in building the capacities among the students. And the focus on learning outcomes also has really helped in improving the performance. I hope that with the research, we can a suitable model again and continue this project in school to be really with greater impact of this student and in overall.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Seshu, and for particularly emphasizing some of the importance of looking very acutely at some of the contextual considerations, as well as, by the way, the person that you heard is our future learner. And we have to make sure that we design for that. So the and I'll take a moment to thank the panelists for and for not only your very profound reflections on the research and on the project, but also for identifying what I believe are some important areas to think about and for research as we look at of extending the project or even deepening our understanding of what we have learned from the work so far. I find myself that in panels like this, when I'm taking notes like there is no tomorrow, that it's really very, because there's so much good input that's being provided. I'll just close off with a couple of comments of my own personal observations based on what I've been hearing, which actually resonate with a lot of my thinking. The first is, this is sort of an abstraction of some of the things that I heard, was the emphasis on thinking the first is an emphasis on thinking very clearly about scale. And a lot of my colleagues, in TIS, people who have been at MIT have heard me say this before, but I like to think about scale as a vector. So when we are talking about scale, we are talking about addressing the needs of different kinds of learners, different kinds of teachers with different preparations, different motivation, different infrastructures, different levels of access. And taking the same thing, and in India we used to call it the creamy layer problem. Getting to the same people, benefiting the same people is not scale. Or, might I say, taking something that is not pedagogically sound and doing exponential distribution of that also is not responsible scaling. So when we think about scaling, to think about the fact that diversity is an important dimension of the scale, and to be able to design for that diversity and employing different tactics, different technologies, different methodologies becomes a very important consideration. The second point that I picked up was, and by the way, when Frida talked about girls and the particular data on girls, that really cued me on to this thing about scale, and we have to really look at those who have been traditionally underserved for whatever reason, and see how to be much more inclusive in our efforts and gather data that points to that gives us evidence of whether we're succeeding along that dimension of scaling, the vectorial aspect of scaling. The second thing is about the point that was made about continuous teacher professional development, and and what I read into it also perhaps was also the need to be agile to provide different kinds of continuous professional development opportunities for teachers as they go along, because the domain is changing, the landscape is changing, and so that they are not rendered ineffective or marginalized as the world around changes, as the learners change. And the third point, which really I picked up from Seshu's comment, was when she commented about the TIS term working with SCRT. As we look ahead, and it's very clear to me, certainly to us, as we look at responding to the opportunity and challenges, the post-pandemic thing, is the significance of the ecosystem. Yeah. You need multiple players, and what CLIx demonstrated right from the get-go was the ability to engage with different kinds of partners, bringing different kinds of concerns, considerations, competencies into the equation. And so to think about designing systems and solutions that really acknowledge and leverage the ecosystem will be very, very critical. And I heard that through the reflections that you provided. And those are my comments. I'm sure there are lots of questions of Padma, of Meera, of the wonderful group that is there, about the research findings and the project itself. But I will just take this moment to thank these panelists and thank all the project team for this wonderful session. So thank you, and let's hear a silent applause for all our illustrious panelists. Thank you, and over to you, Padma.
Yes, I'll hand it back to Saurav, who is managing the event. I'm not very sure that we'll be able to see the short video we've put together on what CLIx teachers have been doing during the pandemic. The testimonials are very impressive. If we can manage, that'll be great, Saurav. Otherwise, I'll leave you to wrap up.
Ma'am, so we are going to play the very short video, 5 minutes. I hope, so Bindu ma'am is sharing her screen, so I think it will work now.
It's still a case of teachers maybe seen and not heard.
Sorry.
I should release this on YouTube for everybody.
Okay. So with the insightful panel discussion, we are coming towards conclusion.
लगा कि हमें बहुत सारी नई जानकारियां मिलेंगी, इसलिए मैंने ज्वाइन किया और वाकई तुषार गोयल सर हमें वीकली बहुत अच्छी अच्छी जानकारियां देते थे। क्लिक्स, OER, ओपन एजुकेशन रिसोर्सेस हमें यूज करना, कहूँ टेलीग्राम, माइंड मैप बनाना बहुत अच्छे से बताया, जो मैं अपने क्लास में बच्चों के साथ ऑनलाइन क्लास में यूज करती हूँ और बच्चे खुद से इंटरेस्ट होते हैं। और मैडम हम भी अपने वीडियोस बना के देखेंगे, खुद कोशिश करते हैं। और इस प्रयास में हम लोग अपनी कक्षाओं को इंटरेक्टिव बनाने के लिए हमारे विद्यालय में पहले से संचालित है क्लिक्स के मॉड्यूल्स। हमने क्लिक्स के अलग अलग मॉड्यूल्स का उपयोग किया। जैसे मैं आपको उदाहरण के लिए बताऊं, भौतिकी में मोशन का एक चैप्टर है।
We stop this maybe.
मोशन के चैप्टर में जो किस प्रकार से
we're going to upload this video on the YouTube, and also this report can be found on CLIX website under publication. So I request Professor Ajay Singh, Co-Chair, Center for Education Innovation and Action Research, TIS Mumbai, to share a vote of thanks. Professor Singh.
Thank you, Saurabh. Yes, thank you, Saurabh. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and good afternoon for our colleagues at USA. It's really a great pleasure to conclude this brief discussion on a long journey. This idea of vote of thanks actually come from my field team, and they choose me, so I'm not a suitable person, but I'll try to make a justice. I remember that 5 years back, we are visited to multiple schools in search of that where we can start this project. And we found some wonderful children, students, and they help us to learn. It's not a good pedagogy. It's also infrastructure in form of lab. We are thankful for those children. They are not only give this learning, but they are also provide us a lot of learning around pedagogy, around infrastructure, around material, around timetabling. We really thankful to all students, those who are part in this project. And they are help us to conduct this research, which is the output that Meera has presented a few minutes back. We are also thankful to teachers who are not only for 1 year, but they are work with us, and we work with them for 3 long years. And we, as Meera told, that the number of year of engagement is directly impacted on quality of learning. So that is important things, and that we are really thankful to all those teachers, those who help us to understand how a long span of training, long span of engaging with the idea actually help us. We really thankful to senior government officer, government functionary of Rajasthan, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Mizoram. We really thankful to them. They allow us to enter into the school. They help us each and every moment. They help us to facilitate teacher training, enter into the school, and work on with not only with teacher but also in the school infrastructure. This is really a great opportunity. Sesu Kumari Madam is here. She always not only a facilitative officer but also a guide to us. She always, our discussion with her is always fruitful, and we are very much thankful to all officers, those who guide us, facilitate us, and help us. For today, meeting is also very important, and this evening, all those participants who joined this evening, of course, evening for India time, we're really thankful for all those participants. And I see the participant list. Some of them are our school teacher, our resource person, our colleagues who used to work with us. Before I conclude this, come to our panelists, I will also like to thank to all those organizations, including Eclabya, and there are multiple organizations, CRP at Jaipur, and multiple organizations working at field level, Mizoram University and other university. They are actually help us to come with this research that we are discussing just now. I really thankful to research team and particularly Meera to presenting this things, and the way this whole event of this evening organized, Omkar, Sadakat, Satej, Saurabh, all these people are working behind. I'm really thankful to all those person. We have always this project is actually fortunate for. I'm a mid of the young people and the senior leadership. We really thankful to Professor Padma, Professor Vijay, those who are always not only structure this project but every time guides research team, field team. We are always blessing with the some other academia like Professor Amiran Behra and the other people who are working in the different university, but they time to time guide us. We really thankful to all those scholars and all those practitioners and all those school teacher, resource person, government functionary. We really thankful to all of them. We thankful to all those personnel who are not actually directly involved in the teaching and learning, but they are facilitating teaching learning process. And they sometimes interact with us like lab in charge, library in charge, school facilitator. I mean, sometimes we, these are also helpful to us. I'm really thankful to all colleagues and all my co-workers at fields, at academia, and at the leadership position. Thank you so much. I forget some of the key faculty member, those who are coming from different background, and they are actually contributed uniquely. Usually education, we are the most of us are coming from B.Ed, M.Ed, traditional kind of degree. But some of our colleague like my colleague Bindu, Rajshekhar, these colleagues are actually they come from a very different background. I always like to enjoy interaction with them. This is really interesting things to learn that how a person coming from corporate and how substantially supporting to education, research, teacher training, teacher training, and other various aspects. Really, this list is very long. If I will continue with the naming all person, this will really take a long time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Saurabh, for giving me this opportunity to just giving a thanks to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, again, I'm going to share the link of this video on YouTube, and the report will be published in our CLIx website under publication tab. Thank you again for coming to this event and sharing and reflecting on this CLIx scalable projects. Thank you again. Professor Padma, you would like to share some? Hello?
Just to echo you, Saurabh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you all.